This video contains spoilers from the Dune Books Series. Viewer discretion is advised. The story of Dune Prophecy is set shortly after what is known as the Butlerian Jihad, the war against thinking machines. The series closely follows the rise of the Bene Gesserit. But we are also seeing the rise of the Corrino line and the forging of their power, the most feared, the most ruthless, Sardaukar. Desmond Hart, the Emperor's new Bashar, is a ferocious commander. It seems as though he may ultimately shape the fearsome Sardaukar and establish their legacy, leading to a long reign of terror across the universe. So who are the Sardaukar, and how did they come to be? What exactly is a Bashar, and how does Desmond Hart fit this role? Let's break it down. From the terminology of the Imperium, Dune. Sardaukar, the soldier fanatics of the Padishah Emperor. They were men from an environmental background of such ferocity that it killed 6 out of 13 persons before the age of 11. Their military training emphasized ruthlessness and a near-suicidal disregard for personal safety. They were taught from infancy to use cruelty as a standard weapon, weakening opponents with terror. 10,000 years after the events of Dune Prophecy, the Sardaukar were basically living legends, the arm of the law, the main source of power for House Corrino for thousands of years. The origins of the Sardaukar are shrouded in legend and fear. How they became cruel soldier fanatics is a mystery concealed by the Emperor, only adding to the terror they inspire. They are highly trained in all manners of warfare, including espionage. Corba, how came they to have weapons? They held back knives concealed in cunning pockets within their stillsuits, the lieutenant said. I should have warned you what to seek. In the future, when searching Sardaukar, remember this. Remember, too, that each has a false toenail or two that can be combined with other items secreted about their bodies to make an effective transmitter. They'll have more than one false tooth. They carry coils of sugar wire in their hair, so fine you can barely detect it, yet strong enough to garrote a man and cut off his head in the process. With Sardaukar, you must scan them, scope them, both reflex and hard ray. Cut off every scrap of body hair, and when you're through, be certain you haven't discovered everything. The Sardaukar are also renowned for their advanced tactics and distinctive fighting style. Beneath them, on the floor of the cave, swirled a melee of struggling figures. Paul stood an instant, assessing the scene, separating the Fremen robes and burqas from the costumes of those that they opposed. Senses that his mother had trained to detect the most subtle clues picked out a significant face. The Fremen fought against men wearing smuggler robes, but the smugglers were crouched in trios, backed into triangles where pressed. That habit of close fighting was a trademark of the Imperial Sardaukar. The triangle knots were being pressed back now. Sardaukar for certain. The Sardaukar are much like the Spartans of ancient Greece, who underwent the brutal agoge training program starting at age 7. They were deprived of food, sleep, and shelter, and torn from their families to forge brotherhood and instill loyalty into their Spartan identity. Their legendary fighting ability was matched by a distinct combat style, including the renowned phalanx formation. There are also similarities to the Janissaries from the Ottoman Empire. Through the Devshirme system, young children were taken from their families, subjected to rigorous training, and indoctrinated into Islam, creating fierce and loyal soldiers. If you were going to raise tough, strong, ferocious men, what environmental conditions would you impose on them? How could you win the loyalty of such men? There are proven ways. Play on a certain knowledge of their superiority, the mystique of secret covenant, the esprit of shared suffering. It can be done, it has been done, on many worlds in many times. Frank Herbert often acknowledged the influence of world history in shaping the Dune universe, particularly from Middle Eastern cultures and religions. The language in the book itself reflects this, with terms like jihad and lisan al-ghaib and shai hulud. Even the name Sardaukar has roots in various cultures of the Middle East and North Africa, such as Persia, the Ottoman Empire, Afghanistan, and Egypt. The term Sardar means commander or headmaster, historically used as a title for nobility or important military leaders. Within the ranks of the Sardaukar, there are also Bashar, an Arabic word meaning deliverer of glad tidings. Based on what we know about the Sardaukar, it seems these glad tidings likely refer to the victory they bring to the Emperor. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at the Sardaukar ranks and what a Bashar actually is. Just like with any military, current or past, there is a hierarchy, a chain of command. In the original Dune series, we're told of 5 distinct titles or ranks within the Sardaukar. There is limited information on the 2 lower ranks, Batur and Levenbrech, but what we do know is that a Batur is described as commanding smaller units, while a Levenbrech serves as an aide to the Bashar. Looking at the top of the hierarchy, we start with Burseg, defined simply as a commanding general of the Sardaukar. Burseg is primarily mentioned in reference to the Emperor himself, highlighting his position as the head of this fierce army. He seldom appeared in public wearing anything other than a Sardaukar uniform and a Burseg's black helmet, with the imperial lion in gold upon its crest. The uniform was an open reminder of where his power lay, from In My Father's House by the Princess Irulan. And after Burseg, you have Qaid, defined as a Sardaukar officer rank given to a military official whose duties call mostly for dealings with civilians, a military governorship over a planetary district, above the rank of Bashar, but not equal to Burseg. So far, we've only seen Qaid defined, and have yet to be introduced to a significant character of this title. So, that brings us to Bashar, defined as an officer of the Sardaukar, a fractional point above colonel in the standardized military classification, rank created for military ruler of a planetary subdistrict. To be a Bashar is to be in one of the highest positions possible, short of being emperor, of course. And as we know, regular old Sardaukar are already considered the best of the best.
The best of the best of the best, sir. With honors.
So for one to be a Bashar, that's some next level S tier shit. And on top of all that elite physical ability and skill, they must also be cunning, have a strong ability to influence, both by words and by strength, and have some sort of gravitas, even charisma. As we delve into the lives of all the Bashar we know, one defining quality stands out. Each man is driven by a deep, unyielding purpose that he relentlessly pursues. Throughout the book series, there are 2 important Bashars that we are introduced to, Tyekanik and Miles Teg. And we must remember that his Bashar Tyekanik is an adept of Chalmurki and Chalmas, and all other subtleties of royal assassination. We meet Tyekanik, also known as Tyek, in the book Children of Dune. He served House Corrino before and after Paul Atreides took the throne from the Emperor. Tyekanik is fueled by one main purpose, to regain the notoriety, the power of both House Corrino and the Sardaukar. He feels personally responsible for the fall and decline and needs to make it right. He was a military mastermind skilled in many different ways of battle and always suspicious, always anticipating the enemy's next move. Above all else, he was fiercely loyal. So much so, he changed religions to that of the Fremen at the order of his Corrino masters. "I want you to embrace this Muad'Dib religion," she said. "Princess, I would walk into fire for you, but this, that is an order, Tyekanik." He swallowed, stared into the screen. The Laza tigers had finished feeding and now lay on the sand completing their toilet, long tongues moving across their forepaws. "An order, Tyekanik. Do you understand me?" "I hear and obey, Princess." His voice did not change tone. She pointed at the screen. "It occurs to me that the Levenbrech out there could be a problem." A problem? How is that? How many people know this thing of the Tigers? That Levenbrecht who is their trainer, one transport pilot, you, and of course, he tapped his own chest. What about the buyers? They know nothing. What is it you fear, princess? My son is, well, sensitive. Sardaukar do not reveal secrets, he said. Neither do dead men. She reached forward and depressed a red key beneath the lighted screen. Immediately, the Laza Tigers raised their heads. They got to their feet and looked up the hill at the Levenbrecht. Moving as one, they turned and began a scrambling run up the hillside. Attention to detail, the princess said. She turned, stiffened, as Tyekanik drew his knife. But he presented the blade to her, handle foremost. Perhaps you'd like to use my knife to attend to another detail, he said. Put that back in its sheath and don't act the fool, she raged. Sometimes, Tyekanik, you try me to the... That was a good man out there, princess. One of my best. One of my best, she corrected him. He drew a deep, trembling breath, sheathed his knife. And what of my transport pilot? This will be ascribed to an accident, she said. You will advise him to employ the utmost caution when he brings those tigers back to us, and of course, when he has delivered our pets to Javid's people on the transport. She looked at his knife. Is that an order, princess? It is. Shall I then fall on my knife, or will you take care of that, detail? She spoke with a false calm, her voice heavy. Tyekanik, were I not absolutely convinced that you would fall on your knife at my command, you would not be standing here beside me, armed. I trust you, my friend. He stared at her silently. Her face hardened. Surely you must know that. Who else can I trust since the death of my husband? He shrugged, thinking how closely she emulated the spider. It would not do to get on intimate terms with her, as he now suspected his Levenbrecht had done. Someday you will try my patience once too often, Tyekanik. With that, she let herself out.
The cheek, the nerve, the gall, the audacity, and the gumption.
He was quite the cheeky bastard, wasn't he? He has a sort of charm to his defiance, but knows when to relent. Despite his occasional sass with his superiors, though, they trusted him implicitly, aware of his guilt over his past failures and his relentless desire for redemption. And then there's Miles Tegg, who served the Bene Gesserit as Supreme Bashar. Although he was not part of the original Sardaukar army, as a Bashar, he fulfilled a similar role as a devout and disciplined commander. But unlike Sardaukar Bashars, he was a part of the meticulous breeding program of the Bene Gesserit, bred from the Atreides line and conditioned by his mother, a Bene Gesserit mother reverend herself, not only becoming a great military mind, but a Mentat as well. But he had lived all his life as a military Mentat, under the will of the Bene Gesserit, and could not compute an act of disobedience. Quis custodiet ipsos custodiet. Who shall guard the guardians? Who shall see that the guardians commit no offenses? This was a question that Tegg had considered carefully on many occasions. It formed one of the basic tenets of his loyalty to the Bene Gesserit. Whatever else you might say about the sisterhood, they displayed an admirable constancy of purpose. Moral purpose, Tegg labeled it. The Bene Gesserit moral purpose agreed completely with Tegg's principles. That those principles were Bene Gesserit conditioned in him did not enter into the question. Rational thought, especially Mentat rationality, could make no other judgment. Tegg boiled it down to an essence. If only one person followed such guiding principles, this was a better universe. This was Tegg's driving force, his singular purpose, deeply intertwined with and in awe of the Bene Gesserit. He willingly acknowledged that he was not a free agent. His fate was bound to the Bene Gesserit and their greater plan. You were chosen because you actually are a grandfatherly figure, Reverend Mother Shuangyu said. There's no way I could be a father figure. According to Taraza, you have the precise characteristics she requires. I know of your honorable scars and their value to us. This only reconfirmed his previous Mentat summation. They have been planning for this for a long time. They have bred for it. I was bred for it. I am part of their larger plan. His genetics and breeding also contributed to his personality, giving him the perfect traits needed to be a supreme Bashar. Atreides, Duncan said. You are all so damned alike. Not all, Teg said. I'm not talking about appearance, Bashar. His eyes went out of focus. Damn you, Bashar. Why do you Atreides always have to be so truthful and honorable? I think it's bred into us. Duncan stared hard at Teg. Not only did this old Bashar resemble Duke Leto in appearance, but he also had that same Atreides charisma. A legendary figure even among his former enemies. Teg had said he was descended from Ghanima of the Atreides, but there had to be more in it than that. The ways of the Bene Gesserit breeding mastery awed him. Which brings us to Desmond Hart. Like Tyek and Miles Teg, he is a decorated and experienced soldier, cunning and strategic. In Episode 5, his Harkonnen and Atreides lineage is revealed, and you can see it. Like Teg, his genetics lend to his personality, his ability to lead as an Atreides. He has a sort of charisma, a certain je ne sais quoi, so to speak, a way about him that he's able to quickly gain the trust and respect of both the Emperor and the Empress. And like his Harkonnen side, boy does he hold a grudge. He has a chip on his shoulder, just like we see in Valya, Tula, and Harrow. And that Harkonnen in him is his driving force, his unyielding purpose that he relentlessly pursues. Revenge against those who hurt him, who abandoned him, his mother and the sisters who took both her and his father. But as Bashar, is he too as loyal as the Sardaukar are known? Like his Harkonnen kin, Valya, he uses politics for his own gain, manipulates others towards his greater end goal, and he is cold and ruthless in that pursuit. He killed Kasha, the Raches kid, despite not having the approval of the Emperor, and yet he was able to corner and ultimately coerce the Emperor into taking credit for it, all under the guise of law and order, playing into the Emperor's insecurities and desire for power. Unlike the other Bashar we know of, he is the man behind the curtain, imposing his will, in a very slick way, might I add, as if it were the Emperor's own ideas. He is amassing power. He is building the ultimate elite force to take down the Bene Gesserit. And how, pray tell, do you create an elite force such as this, such as the Sardaukar? A man who survives Salusa Secundus starts out being tougher than most others, Hawat said. When you add the very best of military training... Nonsense! By your argument, I could recruit from among the Fremen after the way they've been oppressed by my nephew. Hawat spoke in a mild tone. Don't you oppress any of your troops? Well, but... Oppression is a relative thing, Hawat said. Your fighting men are much better off than those around them, eh? They see unpleasant alternative to being soldiers of the Baron, eh? The Baron fell silent, eyes unfocused. Presently he said, How could you be sure of the loyalty of such recruits? I would take them in small groups, not larger than platoon strength, Hawat said. I'd remove them from their oppressive situation and isolate them with a training cadre of people who understand their background, preferably people who had preceded them from the same oppressive situation. Then I'd fill them with the mystique that their planet had really been a secret training ground to produce just such superior beings as themselves. And all the while, I'd show them what such superior beings could earn. Rich living, beautiful women, fine mansions, whatever they desired. The Baron began to nod. The way the Sardaukar live at home. The recruits come to believe in time that such a place as Salusa Secundus is justified because it produced them, the elite. The commonest Sardaukar trooper lives a life in many respects as exalted as that of any member of a great house. In Dune Prophecy, we see the planet Salusa Secundus when it was a beautiful place to live. It was the capital of the Emperor, the home planet of House Corrino. The series starts right after the Butlerian Jihad, the great war against the thinking machines. And while the Dune novels don't provide many specifics, we do know that it is not too long after this war that Salusa Secundus is destroyed and becomes the prison planet of the Sardaukar. Things have been heating up between the Emperor, the Bene Gesserit, and the rebels, with competing goals and morals. Things are about to come to a head. We are likely to see an epic battle within this series that shows the transformation of Salusa Secundus. If we are lucky, maybe even in the season finale. At the end of episode 5, Desmond says, "The woman who gave birth to me sent me away to live among scavengers, where I fought for scraps just to survive." Is this the core of his philosophy for creating the Sardaukar? Will he impose a similar fate on others to forge the ultimate warriors, just as he was shaped by hardship? If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit that like button for more content about Dune, as well as the show From. I plan to expand to more sci-fi, fantasy, and horror topics, so stay tuned. If you want to throw some extra support my way, memberships and super thanks are open, so you know what to do. As always, until next time, toodles.